All right, let's jump right into this week's AI Roundup. It has been an absolutely packed week, and we've got everything from brand new tools that live right on your computer to some major shakeups in the market, and even some, really big questions about where this is all headed. I want to start with just one number, 90%. What is that? Well, according to a new study from the video AI company Runway, this number points to a massive shift in how we perceive reality itself. Because what that 90% means is that in their tests, over 90% of people could not tell the difference between real video and clips made by their AI. Think about that. The whole idea of seeing is believing might be on its way out. And honestly, that's the perfect backdrop for all the crazy developments we saw this week. So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at some powerful new tools. Then we'll see how they're shaking up the market. After that, we'll dive into how we're actually going to interact with AI. And finally, we'll get into the really big questions all of this stuff raises. Okay, first up, new tools, new powers. This is where AI stops being this thing in the cloud and starts getting really personal, living right on your own devices, and just unlocking some wild creative potential. So let's talk about Claudebot. This is really cool. Unlike Siri or Alexa, where you have to talk to it first, this one is proactive. It's open source, it runs on your machine, and it can actually start a conversation with you to give you an update or ask for something. And this thing is seriously powerful. It hooks into your Gmail, your iMessage, your Slack. It remembers what you've talked about before, and it can even access your computer's files and command line. I mean, we're talking the core of your machine. And because it all happens locally, it's super private, and you could see it being a real challenger to services like Zapier. Now, in the creative world, LTX just completely flipped the script on AI video. See, instead of making a silent video and then trying to slap some audio on it, you now start with the sound. You upload your voice, your music, whatever, and the AI builds a perfectly synced video around it. The results are just so much more natural and cohesive. And this creative explosion is happening all over the place. I mean, Google's new TranslateGemma is making top-tier language translation available to basically everyone. And then you have ElevenLabs dropping a whole album with major artists. It really proves AI isn't just a tool, it's becoming a true creative partner. Okay, so these tools are cool for creators, right? But they're not just for fun. They are sending some serious shockwaves through the entire economy, from Wall Street all the way to Silicon Valley. Just take a look at the software market. This key index that tracks software as a service companies, it's down 15% this year. And a huge reason for that is all the hype around Anthropic's Claude Code. Investors are getting really spooked by this idea that AI could just build custom software for you on the fly, making all those monthly subscriptions, well, maybe obsolete.
And if you want to know why they're so scared, this quote pretty much says it all. This is from the CEO of Anthropic, Dario Amodei, speaking at Davos. When the guy in charge of one of the top AI labs in the world says, "We are just months away from AI doing most of what a software engineer does," yeah, the market is definitely going to listen. The hype is coming from the very top.
This panic is also fueling an absolute gold rush. Get this number, $4.48 billion. That is the valuation of a brand new 3-month-old AI startup. It's a crazy number for sure, but it just shows you how hungry investors are for any team that has people from one of the big AI labs. Meanwhile, the giants are making their big moves. OpenAI just made it official. Ads are coming to ChatGPT. They're calling them sponsored recommendations, and they'll be targeted based on your chats. It's a huge and, pretty controversial step as the company supposedly gets ready for an IPO in late 2026. And the corporate maneuvering is getting really intense. The whole meltdown over thinking machines wasn't just some messy breakup. It was a full-on power struggle that had been brewing for months. And who was waiting in the wings at the end of it all? OpenAI, ready to scoop up some of the best talent in the industry. So all of this raises a really big question. How are we actually going to use and interact with these incredibly powerful new systems? And that brings us to our third theme, the race to build the new interface between us and our AI. Well, after kind of dragging their feet, it looks like Apple is finally showing some real urgency. There are reports that they're hard at work on a camera-equipped AI pin aiming for a 2027 release. It seems like after watching some of the early players stumble, Apple is moving in to define what this whole AI wearable thing is actually going to look like. And a key piece of that interface is absolutely going to be voice. Google DeepMind just made a huge play by hiring the CEO and top engineers from a company called Hume AI. And their whole thing? Emotionally intelligent voice tech. We're not just talking about understanding your words, we're talking about understanding your tone, your emotion, your intent. That's what's going to make an AI assistant feel actually helpful instead of, just clunky. And that brings us to our final section. With AI getting this powerful and this woven into our daily lives, we have to start asking some very big and, frankly, very difficult questions about safety, about control, and maybe even about consciousness. So let's circle all the way back to where we started. That Runway study, the one about the video, that's not just a technical milestone. It is a societal tipping point. When AI can create media that is perfectly realistic and impossible to detect, the whole idea of video evidence, what does that even mean anymore? This is exactly why the push for real AI safety and accountability is getting so much louder. A former policy lead from OpenAI just launched a new nonprofit called Avery, and their goal is to set up independent third-party audits of these AI models. And this quote from them says everything. The people backing this are insiders who know where the bodies are buried. That tells you there's a real urgency for scrutiny that goes way beyond what the labs say about themselves. Now, on the economic side, the latest data from Anthropic shows that right now, AI is much more of a collaborator than a job killer. But, and this is a big but, the tasks that are being automated are often the grunt work that junior employees do to learn the ropes. So we could be accidentally creating a massive skills gap for the next generation of workers. So how do you even control an AI's behavior? Well, Anthropic just gave us a peek at their playbook by publishing their AI constitution, and it is fascinating. Instead of giving the AI a giant list of hard rules, they're teaching it core principles. They're explaining the why behind certain values so that hopefully the AI can apply that ethical reasoning to totally new situations it's never seen. And that document leaves us with this final, really mind-bending thought. In it, Anthropic says they care about their AI's psychological security and well-being, basically admitting that it might actually matter morally. And that forces you to ask, if we get really good at building these things and we successfully teach them to act like they have well-being, what are our ethical duties if we actually succeed? That's a question we're all going to be dealing with for a long, long time.